100%. Are we live? Be live. You there, Seamus?
I am indeed here.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad.
Ah,
I'm really quite good, actually,
Yeah.
considering the time of day.
well, it took us this long to get everything, sort of tuned up and sorted. It's not easy.
No, it's perfect.
Hopefully it'll go perfect. Trying to get the podcast isn't easy these days. There's so much setup involved in the whole thing. So, Seamus, we're on the Starship Enterprise. I'm not sure which one. I think it's the Next Generation. So, we're sitting right by the window, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're a big Trek fan, are you?
I'm actually a massive Star Trek fan. But, maybe not like in the grand scheme of things, maybe not that.
Right.
It's a big interest.
Yeah.
But to bits. It's amazing. I love it.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, so did you like the early ones? Did you like Next Generation or the ones after?
I like them all. But the Next Generation, and particularly Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
Yeah. John Luke.
Yeah, I mean, like Jean-Luc Picard is the
Something about Picard, he's got that captainism about, sort of directing those orders. Kirk was a bit kind of all over the place. He was kind of like a cannonball, was he?
For me anyway. So it was Pike first. Pike came first.
Okay.
But he only really lasted it. I think he was in the pilot, and then
Oh, really?
a couple of episodes. Yeah, he predated Shatner. Then Kirk. So Kirk was the kind of bar against which every other person was measured.
Right.
And eventually Patrick Stewart turned up with Next Generation after quite a long sort of hiatus, period of non-activity, which was massively beneficial, I think, for the franchise. But Patrick Stewart is just. It's a bit like maybe like James Bond or like Doctor Who. Like the one you grew up with is the one you like best, and I grew up with the Next Generation and Patrick Stewart, and it's for me.
Yeah, same as me. I mean, it's my sort of timeline, I guess. It's to kind of relate to that.
Yeah,
well, the previous
absolutely.
ones were like they were like something I couldn't relate to. So Next Generation had all those kind of things, this kind of belief system, if you want to call it. So it made me want to believe in it more, than the other one.
No, totally. I mean, it started involving elements of CGI, like in some of the kind of battles, and even the intro, the introduction was part CGI animated, and that was really the transition. Whereas before, in the now you got me. Like, when was the original the Shatner series kind of set? It was like models,
right?
So they had like macro models, and then they used very clever kind of photography to these models. I think work, and then you had this kind of the CGI generation, the computer-aided design generation, and it changed everything. It changed the way that they made episodes, and it was cool.
Yeah, but I think they overuse CGI nowadays. I mean, it just becomes so overhyped, and it just takes over the entire storyline, and it just messes everything up. That's according to my opinion, of course.
I think I'll be controversial and disagree with you, and I'll say that the CGI and the CGI and CGI done well, is hugely beneficial. It does things that are impossible, like logistically and financially and all the rest of it. It does things that can't be done normally or easily, and if it's done well, it's believable. If you watch something and the CGI is not good, or it's put in a place that's not appropriate, you're immediately aware of it, and it's all you can think of, and you think, wow, that looked really fake. that looked really rubbish.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's very obvious. So it's the kind of thing that, yeah, it's like a double-edged sword. Like, it can go really good, and if it's really good, you generally don't comment on it.
Right.
But if it's bad, you know about it very, very quickly.
That's right. That's right. Data. You know Data, that guy in Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's quite a character. He said, "Oh, I went for a quiz once, and there was a cat involved. Was there a cat on the Enterprise? What was his name? It was Data's cat. Do you remember that?"
I do, and I should know his name.
Yes.
I think it was Mr. something.
Mr. All right. It wasn't something like Checkers or Polka Dot or something. It had a weird name. I'm not sure what it was.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's kind of annoying me that I can't remember what his name was. No, his name wasn't Mr. anything, actually. It was Spot.
Spot. Right.
Yeah, he calls the cat Spot.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah.
And the actor is quite a strange actor. He hasn't really done much else. He was in Independence Day.
Was he?
The
first one?
Both of them.
I didn't know
he
that.
played a character called Dr. Oaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but without his white face and looking like Data.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to kind of see him, but yeah, he was in Independence Day, and that's the only film.
I probably wouldn't recognize him without the the face paint.
For sure. I mean, he has that sort of weird, like fake look.
Right.
That's entirely sort of intentional. He's supposed to look like that because he's supposed to, like, he's not human. But yeah, he's in Independence Day, and he's my favorite. He's just my favorite character. He's a very interesting plot device.
Because he kind of argues with a lot of philosophical things in the movie.
Well,
and he's always questioning things.
All you had to do is think about Pinocchio.
Pinocchio, exactly.
I mean, he is Pinocchio.
Right.
He is the fake human that wants to be human. And it's a very clever plot device in that it allows the writing to draw attention to all that's good about being humans and all that's bad about being humans.
Yeah.
It's constantly used as a backdrop, like the way around. Like it is constantly a backdrop for everything else. Like
right.
He's the voice of reason, and he's the voice of kind of logic.
Yes.
Like, in much the same way that Spock was. I mean, they're basically the same character, in that they're not human, and they have this outside opinion the whole time.
Yeah, that's true. That's quite interesting. Now that you mentioned it, Next Generation never had a Vulcan crew, a Vulcan, let's say, person on the ship.
It's true. Because by that time, the Vulcans were... Well, the Vulcans are kind of a bit rare.
Stuck up. Or rare. They're busy.
Yeah, both. Yeah, both.
Yeah, that's something I remember not seeing much of, was the Vulcan. The Vulcans in the entire, series.
They're kind of a dying race. They kind of... I'm not fantastic on that side of it.
Right.
But as far as I understand it, their home planet, Vulcan, was destroyed.
Oh, right. So it already had been destroyed.
Yes, but I think it involved quite a lot of time shifts.
Right.
So I can't remember whether in the actual official timeline,
right,
it's destroyed or it's not. It was destroyed in one timeline, but that's not necessarily, and that's one of the curiosities of any science fiction, actually, is that normally you will get like different timelines,
right,
or universes, and then there's like this happened in this timeline and it didn't happen in another, and the fans are kind of a bit.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of when they throw timelines and like time into the whole episode, like different timelines, different realities, they kind of mess what's going on. Like you can go back in time, you can change something, and then you can go to a different universe and alter another part of yourself, and it is quite a. I think they experimented that in the first two movies of Next Generation. Remember those? Was it First Contact or something like that?
Yeah, First Contact was a great film. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a really, really fantastic.
Yeah, it was well made. The storyline was great.
Yeah, I love that bit at the start. Do you remember at the start? I think it has Stuart, who's kind of. I don't know, he's right up there. Like as far as I'm not that big into I don't know, like idolizing people, but Stuart is just cool. I'm sorry, he is just cool. He might be like I don't know. I don't even know how old he is now. He's probably 70 or something.
Oh, really? Okay.
He's just cool. And I think the start of First Contact is him like shaving, where he's like looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
And the Borg implant pops out of his face, and it's genuinely quite shocking. Like, and for Star Trek, which has been perceived as being quite sort of benign.
Yes.
I guess.
Yes, yeah.
Like, I mean, there's never any, like, sort of previously to the Next Generation, there was never really any sort of, I don't know. I wasn't scared by any of it because
it wasn't scary. I mean, the CGI was just kind of developing at that point, I guess, into it was fairly okay. I mean, most of the sci-fi I watched in the 90s, they were fairly okay in terms of CGI.
Well, yeah, I suppose like the early 90s into like sort of. It's quite interesting, actually. I've not really thought about it in that sense. So you had Next Generation spawned after it finished, after I think 6 seasons, about 150 episodes, I think there were.
Right.
It then went into sort of spin-offs. So you had Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. I never could get into Deep Space Nine or Voyager for some reason. I just.
DS9 was good, and then of course you had Voyager, which I absolutely love. I think Voyager is often overlooked. I think it's actually a very good, a very strong series.
Yeah.
I think it was a very bold, to coin a phrase, bold going where no one has gone before.
Right.
I think it was a very bold move to have a female captain.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It was a woman by the name of Kate Mulgrew, and I think at the time, I wasn't really. I mean, there wasn't social media back then, so I wasn't really aware of what people elsewhere in the world were saying about it.
Right.
So I kind of thought, well, whoa, a woman captain? Oh, I don't know. That's a bit controversial. But I watched the episodes, and they're really good, and they get stronger and stronger, and eventually it ends up with an arc of storyline, which is that Kess, who's a member of the crew, develops superhuman powers, although, I mean, ostensibly she's not human anyway.
Yeah.
And it involves a species called Species 8472, who are bent on wiping out everything. And it's this kind of pitch battle, like for most of the series, and it's really exciting. This is evolving, and you've got lots of weird sort of crew members. You've got the medical, kind of chief medical officer,
right?
Is a hologram, which has never been done before, and there's all this kind of.
It's a hologram medical officer.
Yeah, so he was designed as an emergency. Premise of Voyager was that Voyager was on a sort of normal mission, and it got transported. Like, I don't know. I think initially it was about 150 years.
Okay. So like in the future, like 150 years.
No. Sorry, I kind of made that a bit difficult to understand.
Yeah.
So far away that it would have taken about 150 years to actually return home.
Right, at full warp speed?
Yeah. And throughout all the seasons, it's basically kind of an attempt to get home.
Right. Ah.
And there's kind of various ways that they shorten the distance. Like they'll I don't know, like move faster. They take wormholes and they kind of like a bit like snakes and ladders. So
That's
they
right.
skip bits.
There's always a way to get around space. I mean, wormholes are like there. But I just don't understand warp technology. I mean, warp speed. It's just going faster than like X amount of times light, right?
Yes.
That's basically warp speed.
In principle, like warp 1 is, well, I think it's like double the speed of light, or...
Man, that's not much, is it? Double the speed of light.
Well, the speed of light is fairly quick. It's 3
into 10 to the power 8 meter per second, something like that.
Yeah. No, that's not something like that. It's exactly that. That's nice. That's kind of dorky stuff that I know. Yeah, it is exactly that. And it doesn't really sound like much, but then to the power of 8 is a lot. It's a big number.
Right.
And that's every second. So over the course of, which is why you have the speed is not measured in. That's a very human way to measure speed.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Come to think of it, we measure speed in terms of what?
Light years.
Light years.
Which is the distance which light travels in the course of a year.
That's measured,
which is a very long way.
Huh.
Bearing in mind it's doing, about 6 trillion meters an hour.
Yeah. So that's
a lot. Even if you put that into miles, that's like, I don't know, 6 billion miles an hour.
Yeah.
And you consider that land speed record is about 750.
Oh, right, okay.
Miles an hour.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
Totally nuts. I'm sure the best way to travel these massive distances in space would be like opening a portal or a wormhole, like working out distance instead of speed, like finding wormholes is probably the most feasible way of getting around.
Totally, absolutely. I mean, I love thinking about this kind of thing. Like the one kind of conundrum that I thought of was, if you're in space and you're in orbit and you are orbiting the Earth at X speed. Yeah. Right. And if you have, this is entirely hypothetical. It's a bit like, I can't remember whether it was Socrates or Plato. A Greek philosopher said that if he had a plank long enough, he could wedge it underneath a planet. Really? And using leverage, he could shift that planet out of orbit, and it's absolutely true. And this was a guy that was around, like 2,000 years ago. Wow. Archimedes. Those Greeks know a lot of stuff, man. Yeah. It's like yeah, they knew the planet wasn't. They knew the world wasn't flat. Yeah. Which explains why. Way before. Yeah, but I mean, they understood it. And it's a bit like the guy that, do you know what the periodic table of elements is? Yeah. Yeah. So the guy that designed the periodic table of elements was a Russian by the name of Mendeleev. Right. He worked out the whole thing. So he worked out that they were, at the time, there were about 100 elements. Right. And he knew by the design of his own design that there were certain things that he didn't know. That there were certain elements in the world somewhere that nobody knew about. Yeah. Well, come to think of it, there's more than, there are lots more elements mentioned in the periodic table, except they don't exist. They got a very short lifespan. There's 112 now, I think. Right. And some of them, they've just what was it called? UUP or something. On some Pentium, that was like synthesized in a lab or something. They all were. Yeah. Beyond 98, I think they're all man-made. Yeah, that's right. They're all hugely dangerous, but they only exist and they have really, really short half-lives. Right. So they they might exist for
like a nanosecond or something like that.
Yeah, for a fraction of a second, and that's all on the back of stuff like obviously CERN, which is the mass collider in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Hey,
have you ever been to CERN?
No, I haven't. I'd love to. It's just a phenomenal idea.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it. Like, a machine that is.
That's like
a mile in circumference.
Yeah. It took like $1 billion something odd dollars or pounds to make it.
I think it cost about like £250,000 to run it once.
Yeah.
No, and it's a big deal, and it's why they discovered the Higgs boson particle.
Right. Yeah.
Which, again, they knew existed, but they hadn't the proof to back it up.
That's right.
So it's the same as Mendeleev. He knew that certain elements existed because he predicted what they would be by the characteristics. Okay. So I think at the time he had like terms like the alkali metals, which were like in its simplest in terms of mass number. Right. You had like sodium was the first, then lithium, and all the way down to weird stuff like germanium or cesium, rubidium.
Wow. I wonder where he got all that data from.
But this is the thing. He knew that these things did exist, but
right.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. I mean, for me, that's like the true measure of intelligence is just doing your own thing, and
it's like detecting something unusual, probably like a suspicion or something that gives rise to an idea, and the idea becomes an actual, thing you find basically. You seek out and go look for it. You're based on a hunch basically, and
Yeah, but that just goes back to like Star Trek.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like boldly going where no man has gone before. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool.
That's right. Oh, did you hear about the new Star Trek movie coming up?
I did. Is
it Tarantino doing it?
Actually, now that you mention it, I thought you were going to mention something else. Is it a film? I thought it was a series.
It was a series. Yeah. Sorry, it's a series. I forgot about that. That's a weird one. Have you watched the last one? The last series. It's called Star Trek Discovery. Have you ever watched it?
I've actually had this conversation with somebody recently.
Yeah, I could never get into it. The first 2 episodes just lost me, man. It was.
Now, Discovery, it's a bit odd.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that's odd about it. I think, like, my overriding initial impression of it was.
I think
it feels a lot like a film that's really, really long.
Right.
It had that kind of cinematic kind of feeling.
Right.
Where.
I just felt the characters lacked substance. They were not strong enough. I mean, they didn't have that presence.
I would say watch the whole series. I think
the whole series. I couldn't get past 2 episodes.
in my measured opinion,
right.
It's definitely worth watching, and that's as.
I mean, come on, the Klingons are not even Klingons.
Yeah, the Klingons are different. I think what doesn't.
They had like a massive makeover.
Yeah, I think what doesn't do it any favors is the fact that it's always going to be kind of flavored by what's come before. Right. So if you have in your mind what Klingons should be, then you're going to have a problem.
Right. That's true.
If you can put that on one side and say, okay, this is the 21st century. It's a different world. This is the same world, but reimagined by different people.
Yeah.
If you can do that successfully, you will look upon it much more favorably. And ultimately, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was excellent.
All right. So you watched the entire series?
Yeah, I actually finished it recently because I work with somebody who's a really big kind of Star Trek fan, and he said, just persevere. It might be a little bit challenging at the start, but there's always in a lot of kind of sci-fi series, there's always the same kind of formula in that there's a storyline, but then there's a definite tendency to have episodes which are like standalones.
Right.
the slightly derogatory term is that they're filler.
Right.
There's no filler in Discovery at all.
Okay.
It's like watching a very long film.
Yeah. Okay.
And I finished the end of, I think it's 14 episodes, and I thought this is really good. But I think if you're really, really like adamant that Klingons are Klingons and they should be, they always have been.
That's right. I mean,
you're just going to have a problem because they're not. It is so different.
Right. Yeah, it's trying to relate to that difference or that change. Sometimes you're so used to watching, an entire, species look like something, and then they change it, and you're like, I can't quite relate to them now. They're not as evil and brutal as I used to know them.
Well, for me, like, I grew up with Klingons, and they were a bit like space Vikings.
Space Vikings.
Space Vikings.
All right, that's interesting.
So they're like slightly sort of piratical. They were
very
based
sort
on
of
a kind of
tribalistic.
Based on a kind of raiding culture. They were
true.
Into war and into sort of. They had an honor code and they had their own sort of like rules and religions and all the rest of it. Basically, they were space Vikings.
Space Vikings with some cool cloaking technology. Eh?
Yeah.
How come they had the cloaking technology and not many others did?
Yeah, so did the Romulans.
The Romulans did. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Romulans did as well. And you have to understand that the Romulans are basically Vulcans. Think Vulcan.
Yeah.
But with emotions.
Ah, okay. Molecules.
So they're basically Vulcans that didn't suppress their emotions. Vulcans are basically Romulans that have suppressed their emotions.
Ah, right. I see.
Which is why they're kind of very aloof. They're very sort of distant and measured and logical because they, by force of will, suppress their emotions to the point where they don't exist.
Right. Somehow when you look back into the whole Star Trek, series, it's always the manufactured species or genetically modified species that become the worst or the biggest threat. It's not like the species that evolve naturally. It's always, the ones that are created or genetically modified somehow become the very, dominant, destructive. Don't you think?
Yeah, but I think that's probably a kind of bit of a kind of cross section of the way the world is. I mean,
right.
All sci-fi is not necessarily a mirror reflection of reality.
True.
But it's I mean, if it's set in the future, obviously it's not. But I have this kind of plethora of series which are based on an alternate reality, like where we can see the human race doing different things.
Yeah, true.
And the bad guy is always going to be the guy that's different. Like it's always going to be the one that is superior in, maybe like really kind of like biologically they're more kind of capable than we are. They're stronger, they're faster, whatever.
Yeah, true.
But ultimately, we're always going to kind of because it's us that's writing it, and it's written by the victors.
True, but then so there has to be some sort of challenge in it. Like if you're trying to battle another species that's far more superior technologically, intellectually, it's like a challenge. To kind of come to that level and try to defy that force.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that makes something that people want to watch. They want to see the underdog win.
Yeah.
They want to see the person that's really struggled and like really battled hard and overcome all odds and actually beat it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of at the core of a lot of these episodes where they're up against something that they've never encountered before and that they don't understand.
Yeah.
And they beat it eventually through.
Like the Borg, for example. Did they beat the Borg? Did they eventually? They did in the movie, I guess.
No.
No.
No, you can't beat the Borg. They have a homeworld.
Right.
I think, but it's never really kind of fully fleshed out.
Yeah.
There's never really ever kind of an attack made against the Borg homeworld, because that's not really what the Federation's about. They're not about kind of conquering and crushing to the point of extinction. Yeah, the Borg are.
Well, were they some sort of AI going a bit rogue?
They were. I think. Well, my understanding of it is that they were a race of dying humanoids.
Right.
That took it upon themselves to, in an attempt to preserve their own race, they converted to a sort of cyborg existence, so part human, part machine, and that was the way that they kind of justified, like living, like surviving.
Okay.
And over time, they became a bit like, well, we'll just make everybody the same.
Yeah.
And it'll all be good. And in a strange way,
well,
that doesn't sound so bad. Like,
well, it's like merging like human and machine together, and that's going to be a possibility in the future where you're going to have like mechanical, electronic parts.
But the major kind of issue, the major kind of difference is that what the Borg do is remove free will. Right.
Well, that's one flaw, and something you had to deal with, I guess.
Yeah, well, they enforce their kind of will upon everything else because they think it's better.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So they assimilate, and if you question why they assimilate, you're looking at things like they're trying to make everybody the same. They're trying to prevent disaster. Right. Because what they do is they assimilate a race, and they absorb everything that they have, all of their generations of knowledge and all the rest of it, and they make themselves better.
Right. So they're constantly evolving.
Yeah. So they're making themselves better and stronger, and in the military sense, more
effective in any sort of scenario, I guess. I mean.
Yeah. I mean, like. Yeah. Like, my words are failing me, but they're more resilient as a result. Take everything that you have and everything that makes you strong, and we'll use it to make ourselves stronger. Right. And if you keep doing that, it's cumulative. It builds up. You make yourself stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's.
Then you become unstoppable. You will become a god.
Yeah, but I mean, like they wiped out like so many races. Yeah. Yet when they come across humans, and obviously because it's humans that are writing this material, and humans are the good guys.
Yeah. See, that's one thing I don't get. Like, why do humans always have to be the good guys? You ever thought, like, what if the humans were the bad guys for a change, eh? That would be interesting.
The humans kind of are the bad guys for me. They're obviously like a core of they're a kind of starting member of the Federation. Right. So they're really kind of
like rookies, like in the the academy.
And I'm not convinced the Federation is a good idea.
Right.
Like, the Federation was set up to kind of like defend, and kind of.
It's like the UN of the space.
Absolutely, and in a strange way, it's very much analogous to what the Borg try and do. They absorb all of these cultures, and they say, "Oh yeah, we'll have Vulcans, we'll have Andorians, and eventually Klingons, and I think even Romulans will be stronger. Kind of strength in numbers type thing."
Yeah, true.
The only difference really is that whereas the Borg try and make everybody exactly the same.
Right. Right.
Through like sort of.
Try absorbing them and converting them.
Yeah,
into,
but I mean it's down to like.
It's done by force anyway. So.
Yeah, it's done by force, and it's also kind of like. It very literally changes the physicality of the race. It breaks them down, and then it adds sort of metal parts and all the rest of it, and makes them really effective at what they want to do.
Yeah, true.
If it's subjugation, they have sort of weapons, arrays, and all the rest of it. And if it's not subjugation, it's like data handling tools and all the rest of it. That doesn't happen in the Federation. The Federation is much more, we want to.
Kind of diplomatic, very
assimilate you, but you can remain the way you are.
Yeah,
and we'll not
true.
Touch that, and that's kind of like a bit of kind of human thing. That happens in life. So we have the UN, as you mentioned, and we have the European Union, and we have. The kind of constant shift to get everybody on the same page, get everybody talking the same language.
Right. All right. One more thing before we wrap this up, Seamus. The new series coming out, Star Trek. What do you hope to see? What do you hope it'll bring? And what are your final thoughts?
Good question. I mean, I've kind of talked long enough to be honest, but
no pressure, man. No pressure.
Patrick Stewart's coming back.
Really, Patrick Stewart?
Yeah, Patrick Stewart is coming back. So
John Luke, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was quietly cheering because it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I do have my kind of I'm a bit of a skeptic and a bit of a pessimist sometimes. Yeah. So I do think that it's possibly going to be a bit crap. You
think it's going to go crap?
But
they're going to spoil it.
It depends entirely on. I mean, there's so many moving parts. Obviously, Patrick Stewart has said that he's going to be in it, and if it's got Patrick Stewart in, I think anybody that likes Star Trek will watch it, regardless of what anybody says about it. Patrick Stewart, I don't think, or at least I'd like to think, wouldn't want to be associated with something that wasn't quite well written. I mean, he's a Shakespearean actor, which is
that's true.
For me, anyway, he's a. He's a proper actor, and that's not a technical term, and it's a bit sort of.
Well, yeah, he can act compared to most people in Hollywood.
He's a first-rate actor.
Yeah.
And I would hope that he would, not be associated with something that really wasn't kind of up to mustard. Phrase. So I am massively excited. It'll actually. One of the key points is that it's the first Star Trek series that has been set in the very, very far future.
Oh, really? Okay.
Pretty much ever. Yeah, it's actually set in the 25th century.
Wow.
So like kind of year 2400-ish.
So
even the last, the last and most modern, and I say modern in the sense that it's the most. It's the furthest in the future, was Star Trek Nemesis.
Yes.
Which was a motion picture. Mm-hmm. And that was set at the end of the 24th century.
Oh, yeah.
And that was way far in the future. So this is going to be set even beyond that.
Even further, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
There might be some new enemies
we'll see
new
ships
species.
and technology that we've never seen before, because fans tend to like backstory. So like looking backwards,
right.
So you have Discovery, which is in chronological terms.
Okay.
It's actually like you're not looking forward, like it's old technology or it's older technology.
Okay.
But now we have this kind of thing where we're looking forward. It's all new.
Yeah,
we have dilithium reactors.
Maybe
we have photon torpedoes. We have eventually photon torpedoes became quantum torpedoes, and then what is it?
Maybe you'll have bow and arrow this time.
Cool, man. It's super exciting. I'm really enthusiastic about it.
Well, when is the release date? I mean,
I have no idea.
Summer next year, I guess.
I believe they've not even finished casting,
right.
let alone filming. So, where we are, it could be a year or two,
right,
before we see anything. But the second series of Discovery is out reasonably soon, and I'm actually really excited about that. It actually features. Now I mentioned him earlier on, Captain Pike.
Oh yeah, you mentioned Pike. I never.
Yeah, I would recommend watching. Watch the trailer for the second series of Discovery, and you're introduced to Captain Pike.
All right. Okay. Does the second series take off from the first one, or is it just a new sort of? Oh, it takes off. Okay, so it's connected to the previous. All right. Cool. I might give it a try. I might check it out.
Give it a go.
Yeah. Yeah. What the hell? Well, Star Trek's not gonna hurt you, eh?
No, it's fun. If you don't like it, then nobody's forcing you.
Yeah, so true. Unless you're the Borg, you make me watch it. All right, Seamus, let's wrap this up. Thanks for coming on the podcast once again, and this time we kept it short, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a very good thing. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Andrew. So, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, you too, Seamus, and I shall see you next time. Thanks, folks, and join me again for another crazy podcast. Bye. There we go.
Oh, good.